Well, Aldrin, we have the ANC, of course, as the leader of the GNU. And then you've got the IFP, you've got the DA, you've got the PA, you've got the GUD. As far as I can recall, I think over the past 2 days or so, the PAC has also pledged its allegiance to be part of the GNU. So this is a growing formation, and we're very happy as the ANC because in any event, in any case, our objective was to ensure that all political parties who are represented in Parliament do endorse the idea of forming a GNU in order to realize the objectives of our country.
Yeah. Does invitation to form part of the GNU mean automatic membership of the GNU?
Yeah, remember the principal leader of the GNU is the African National Congress. Everybody else who has signed and assented to the GNU, irrespective of who came first and came last, did it so at the invitation of the African National Congress. So, for instance, it doesn't mean that with the PAC, that would have said a few days ago, who are joining the GNU, and therefore they are becoming a junior member of the GNU on the basis that they signed the statement of intent later than other political parties. Everybody. And our own understanding as the ANC was that the period between the formation of a government and setting up the legislature, appointment of the chairpersons of portfolio committees and all of that exercise, would be a period at which we will continue to engage with the political parties that, in our own view, we believe must accept and support the concept and the idea of the government of national unity.
Okay. So you know what the Democratic Alliance's take is on that matter. Section 24, Clause 24, I'm going to read it to you. It says, in keeping with the spirit of inclusive GNU, it is agreed that the composition shall be discussed and agreed amongst the existing parties whenever new parties desire to be part of the GNU. So, of the political parties that you have now listed outside of the IFP and the DA, and of course yourself, the ANC, was there discussion that took place around the other political parties that have now joined the GNU?
You see, the interpretation of the DA on that clause is essentially predicated on the wrong assumption. And I wonder whether it's a wrong assumption or it's a deliberate position adopted by the DA in order to elevate themselves into some kind of a strategic partner within the formation of the GNU. It is true that the DA was the first organization to sign the statement of intent, but that never elevated them to be the founding member of the GNU. The leader and the principal leader of the GNU is the African National Congress. Whether the DA signed this morning and the IFP signed in the afternoon and others are signing a week later, it doesn't mean that we needed to meet with the DA and those who sign on the same day as the ANC for us to determine whether or not we should accept more membership into the GNU. What we have understood right from the inception of these engagements is that at the end of the formation of the government, which is yet to be finalized, at the end of the formation and the setting up of the National Assembly, which is yet to be finalized, it's only then that as we continue to engage other parties, anyone else who decide to join after all of those processes have been concluded, their membership and their proposal to join the GNU will therefore have to be discussed by the parties that have already worked together to set up government and to set up the legislature. So it is very opportunistic for the Democratic Alliance to say that even before we are done with what we have agreed we're going to do, nobody must come in. If you want to come in, you must consult all of us. There's no such a clause, such a provision like that.
But there's no clause that says also that only after the establishment of the government itself will you then have the existing members having to discuss the application of a new member wanting to be part of the GNU.
You're quite correct. It's because on our side as the ANC, we understood and we thought that everybody is acting in good faith. And when we're in a meeting, we have a clear understanding, a very perfect understanding of what we are doing and what we are saying. Everybody is going to act consistent with that understanding. It's only now, I mean, with the benefit of hindsight, now that this is being abused by the Democratic Alliance, it's perfectly clear to us that probably we should have set the condition right from the beginning that we are inviting everybody to the formation of government, and until such time that the government has been established, nobody will define themselves as the primary members of the GNU. The GNU is under the leadership of the African National Congress, and it has to remain at size. And part of the reason, Aldrin, we are deliberately responding to this and challenging this position of the DA is because we can see, I mean, right from their own articles that they are writing, Ryan Kutsi, Helen Zille, and others, there is this desire on their part to project themselves as the leadership of the GNU, which is not true. The ANC remains the leadership of the GNU. It's the ANC that conceptualized this idea and invited everybody. And unfortunately, others, of course, decided to walk away, your EFF and MK part, on the basis of the reason that they articulated. But I just want to say what we've understood as the ANC is that the practical reality, Aldrin, the practical reality with which you must contend with as the ANC and as well as South African, is that this matter is going to be subjected to an ongoing and continuous debate and intellectual discourse in our country. Primarily because we are bringing together here political parties that represent different ideological perspectives. And the contestation about who's going to set the agenda in the GNU is going to be subject of an ongoing engagement. And the ANC is ready and prepared to define the agenda and to lead everybody who has been invited to form the GNU. Yeah.
So on the basis of the concession that you make, that it is absent, that clarity that only after the establishment of the government, with Section 24, Clause 24 then come in place, does this then mean that the DA was actually correct in the interpretation on the basis of the omission?
Well, it means that they made that kind... Look, I don't think they were correct. That's why I'm saying there's a distinction between you reading the document without having been involved in the discussion and those who were involved in the discussion who understood the spirit and the letter of what is contained in the document. So in my own view, they are acting opportunistically, as I'm saying, because as you know, this new entity is going to be subjected, as I'm saying to you, to an ongoing discussion. And each party or parties within the GNU will make their own effort to set the national agenda and to determine what the GNU is supposed to do.
So what happens
now? But the ANC, as the leader of the GNU, has a primary responsibility to come in and intervene in instances where there is a distortion of the commonly adopted positions.
So according to the ANC's own interpretation, currently as the leader of the GNU, any political party that is represented in the National Assembly that wants to form part of the GNU, it is up to the ANC to decide whether that political party joins the GNU or not, up until the establishment of government.
Yes, because the ANC is an inviter. The ANC invited the IFP, the ANC invited the DA and all other political parties. Some of the political parties decided that they want to consult their own constituents. Others took longer. Others were not, they didn't take that long like the DA. That is why we have had to intervene when the DA says they were not expecting the PA to join the GNU. And we said to them, nothing is going to work according to your party political expectation. Everybody has been invited. You had your own conditions. Others also come with their own conditions. Look, the ANC decided to invite political parties who are coming from both the left and the right ideological spectrum. And we are conscious of the fact that some of these parties, for that matter, the EFF, the MK part, the DA itself, had set themselves as part of their own mission an agenda to liquidate the African National Congress. And when we were inviting them, and they were saying, no, we can't come when so and so is there, we can't come, we said to them, listen, as the ANC, we understand that all of you are very dangerous to us. You have made this publicly known. Before and after election, some of them have said, look, our mission is to liquidate the ANC. And that is why we've been very clear that nobody, none of them, has an obligation to defend the ANC. But the ANC is going to have to defend itself and to defend and advance the national democratic revolution, of course, within the constraint of the new reality that we find ourselves in.
Yesterday, when the president, after his inauguration, when he was addressing some of the people that had gathered at the lawns of the union buildings, he said that kulaba abangaphakathi ku-GNU abagangayo sizobakhipha. What does that mean?
It exactly means that you commit to a GNU on the basis of a minimum program. The first part of that program is articulated in what we call the statement of intent. The detailed part of that program is going to be worked out in the national dialogue. Because the reason why we decided that we need to have a national dialogue is because as the ANC, we have recognized the fact that for some time the South African population is drifting apart. There's a major disintegration. The problem, we are unable to live up to our own objective of realizing a non-racial, non-sexist and a democratic society. So when the president says anyone who's misbehaving, who's acting in a manner that is inconsistent with the adopted principles of the GNU, we'll have to be ready to go out.
Is the DA misbehaving?
Well, in this case, I think what we can say about the DA is that they are attempting to, to take control of the direction. Because in their own view, and I mean, when you read the articles that were written by Helen Zille and the one by Ryan Kutsi, clearly you can see that this is a very condescending kind of a position in which they believe that they hold the ANC, and if they go away, the government of national unity is going to collapse. There's no such a thing like that. The government is going to be set up by President Ramaphosa. Anyone who decides to walk away from that government does not mean a collapse of government. It may very well be that if you walk away from that government, you are then going to go and mobilize the rest of the political parties to pass a vote of confidence into the ANC and therefore working towards, the collapse of the government. But it's not an automatic exercise. It's not even the case that, remember, there are parties that decided to stay away because there is a DA. The MK and the EFF, the reason why they stayed away is because in their own view, they would never be party to a process that involved the DA. And because they are saying the DA is a threat to the ANC, why do you bring them closer to you? We said to them, you are equally a serious threat to us, but we can contain all of you if you are under one.
So you're still going to try and find a resolution with the Democratic Alliance?
Well, of course, in the areas where there is a different interpretation of the positions we've adopted, commonly adopted, not just with the DA, we need to clear our minds as members of the GNU in order to ensure that we assist the DA not to deviate from the commonly adopted positions.
Okay. On Thursday, last week Thursday, the leader of the EFF had a press briefing, Julius Malema. He spoke about a call that he's expecting from President Cyril Ramaphosa. But one of the proposals he said that he has made to the president is that forming part of the GNU, they would like to have the Speaker of the National Assembly position and the various other positions in the legislature in terms of the subcommittee chairs, including the finance subcommittee. What's the ANC's understanding of that proposal? Does it mean that the EFF is willing to join the government of national unity, but not form part of the executive, just at a legislative position?
You see, there's been a major concern from our part that the EFF leader speaks left, right, and the EFF delegation, when they meet with us, they speak left. So we end up not knowing who exactly to listen. We had 2 meetings with the EFF. The reason why we did not agree with them is because they were insisting that they would never participate in an arrangement where the Democratic Alliance is involved. And we said to them, history is littered with examples where you have consciously intervened to remove the ANC from power in support of the Democratic Alliance. So you can't tell us that today you are not willing to work with the DA, hence we have worked with them all this period to displace the ANC. Their argument was that, and at least I was happy, personally I was happy that they were very honest in that conversation. They said, no, we worked with the DA, we could have worked with anyone else in order to unplug and uproot the ANC from the system of this country because we want the ANC to die. And our view is that the death of the ANC must be expedited in order to ensure that the EFF takes over. So we said to them, then we can't work together if you have that kind of a mentality. We are inviting you. You tell us that we are not going to join because there's a Democratic Alliance. Now, on the other side, their leader makes call to our president. And then he makes signals that are completely inconsistent with what his delegation is raising when we are meeting. So it's very difficult to understand where the EFF stand, at least in many respects, except one, that like the Democratic Alliance, they've defined it as their own primary mission to work for the destruction of the African National Congress.
Quickly, clause number 19.3 in your statement of intent, in case of a sufficient consensus, where sufficient consensus exists, parties to the GNU representing 60% of seats in the National Assembly agree. Just quickly explain to me what the ANC's understanding of this is, because it reads as though that it says that members of the GNU that constitute 60% of the seats in the National Assembly, not necessarily 60% within the GNU. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah, your understanding is correct. It's members of the GNU which constitute 60% of in the National Assembly.
In the National Assembly.
Yes, but but what is also not being was not properly ventilated on that clause was that at the level of the GNU, where there may be areas, of disagreements or divergence, at least a minimum of 60% of the parties who are in the GNU must reach a consensus to resolve an issue.
Sorry, I'm a bit confused. So 60% in the GNU and then 60% of the seats in the National
Remember, there are
Assembly.
parties that had made a signal to us that they are going to support the GNU but don't form part of government.
Yeah.
To understand that, like the Freedom Front Pass.
Yeah.
They support the GNU. They are quite comfortable with it. They voted with us, I believe, in Parliament. Hence, the president received the most votes. But they said, we don't want to form part of government. But we support the idea of the GNU because in any case, Aldrin, the position of the ANC was not that in order for you to demonstrate your loyalty to the GNU, you have to occupy positions in cabinet or in the deployment of the legislature portfolio committee.
When can we expect the cabinet to be announced?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure the president is engaged in consultation with the leadership of the ANC and the alliance, and I do believe. I mean, the president understands very well that we've got major challenges in the country, and the sooner the better. And I'm hoping as well as the chief whip of the African National Congress that very soon we're going to get the ball rolling. Because, as you know, we have to respond to a number of challenges that confront our people.
And when it comes to the allocation of the executive seats, would it be proportional to the percentage acquired by a member of the GNU?
It's a definite no. It would be on the basis of what the president has decided in exercising his prerogative.
So meaning that he could take one person from the DA and take 5 from the IFP?
So he can. That's why it's not even part of the statement of intent, because we understood that, when we said in the document, we must respect the Constitution. We can't be selective. Part of what the Constitution says is that the prerogative to determine not just the composition of the cabinet, but the members that can be chosen to serve in the cabinet reside with the President of the Republic as the head of state. And there's no way that we're going to amend that because we are in the GNU. Of course, the President is very conscious about the imperative to consolidate the GNU and to ensure that it succeeds. And I think he's going to reach out to all political parties consistent with that appreciation.
Has the ANC had a conversation at all around the role of the leader of a government business, whether it stays with the deputy president of the country, whether it moves to another executive member of the executive, and whether Paul Mashatile does come back as the deputy president of the country?
Well, we haven't had that discussion at my level. When I'm saying my level, in the National Working Committee or the National Executive Committee, these are matters that are usually handled by the national officials of the ANC. But I can say that I would imagine that the president of the ANC and the president of the country will consider the deputy president of the ANC as the deputy president of the country. I think that is most logical, and that is expected not just from me as a member of the ANC, even from the supporters who voted for the ANC to be a leading party in the formation of the new government in this country.
Mdumiseni, thank you so much for your time.